An atmosphere of steel-clad anticipation hung heavily as the unseen narrator began to weave the chilling tale. The bone-chilling quiet of the facility, the kind of silence that leaves ears straining for any shred of sound, was only accentuated by his baritone voice echoing ominously. Refresh your understanding of SCP-8426 if necessary, dear listeners. It's imperative that you comprehend the profound connotations of what I'm about to relay. He paused, allowing a moment for the gravity of his words to sink in. On April 22, 2019, one of our facilities, Site-33M, was besieged by a series of cascading system failures. It was as if reality itself shifted, exhibiting multiple ontological changes within the site's conceptual exclusion area. The origins and the cause of these anomalies remain a mystery, evading our understanding like a specter in the night. His voice took on a cautionary tone as he continued. This investigation is ongoing, and as we delve deeper into this abyss, facts are subject to change. I beseech all personnel within the facility to keep abreast of the developments related to SCP-8426 as needed. In the wake of his words, a pause followed, filled by the soft hum of servers and the distant clatter of idle machinery. Then the narration resumed. Know this, the information provided utilizes various shades of text color to differentiate between the reliability of each data point. In consideration of our differently abled colleagues, accessibility options are provided. His tone shifted from cautionary to informative. Colorblind mode, if activated, results in diverse underlines appearing beneath the text to denote the reliability of the information. The screen reader mode, on the other hand, prefaces each piece of data with varying levels of credibility, which can be unpredictable, improbable, uncertain, or probable. A shiver coursed down the listener's spine as he went on to detail the site's system log. He narrated the sequence of events, inserting life into the otherwise dry text filled with timestamps, system reports, and error messages. Amid these technicalities, a sob story of a security system's gallant fight against an unseen foe unfolded. A tale of data corruption, security breaches, and mysterious entries took form, inciting a grim fascination. And so the facility reeled under the onslaught of errors and anomalies, the narrator continued, his voice reflecting the grim intensity of the situation. Access denied here, data corrupted there, systems failing, and then SCP-8426. The mere mention of SCP-8426 sent chills down the spine. An ontological shift detected within the vault housing SCP-8426, the narrator pronounced in a gravely serious tone. Yet, an error message followed stating that the ontological data did not exist. The system was failing, the defenses crumbling. The story took a darker turn with the mention of the site's exterior gate being accessed successfully by an unknown entity. SCP-8426 recovery file flagged for review, the facility now in mortal peril. The narrator's voice echoed ominously. Once the dust settles, we are left with an error audit that reveals a grim picture. CIDs corrupted, bioed invalid, and SCP-8426 file needing urgent attention. His voice, now somber, lent a chilling realism to the scenario. And as we struggle to make sense of the chaos, color-coded text is our feeble attempt at clinging to some semblance of assurance about the reliability of our assumptions, a beacon of reason in this sea of uncertainty. As the narrative slowly wound down, the true gravity of the situation hung heavily in the silence. The listeners, despite the existential dread that clung to them, couldn't help but eagerly anticipate the next chapter of this haunting tale. In the bleak and enigmatic world of SCP containment, certain signifiers are assigned to classify the varying degrees of certainty or ambiguity surrounding information related to each contained entity. a complex and fluid system rendered into seemingly mundane color codes, a system to guide those who dare traverse the labyrinth that is the Foundation's archive. The codes are as follows. Probable, a statement that is assumed to be accurate in the face of all the known evidence. Uncertain, where multiple possibilities exist, each with an equal likelihood of being the truth. Improbable, a scenario that, while unlikely, fits the situation best. Unpredictable, a statement or fact that is ontologically unstable, its very existence in a constant flux, defying the laws of conventional reality. Amidst the trove of arcane documents within the Foundation, a peculiar blueprint was discovered, SCP-8426, a mechanical anomaly, a product of the Foundation's own creation, yet its purpose was as nebulous as the shifting realities of its existence. Its classification, object class, teetered on the precipice of uncertainty, but it was assumed to be safe. The containment procedures were largely grounded in the realm of probability. SCP-8426 was to be held within the confines of Containment Chamber 7, access to which was strictly monitored through airlocks and biometric scanners. Yet an improbable stipulation hung heavily within the containment procedures, a ban on digital recording of SCP-8426. The rumblings of an ontological storm were whispering through the facility. SCP-8426 was not to be activated without the express consent of the O5 Council, a statement which resonated with waves of uncertainty. Access to the SCP's file was strictly limited. Only personnel with a security clearance of an elusive and unpredictable nature, 0123450123, could dare unlock the secrets of SCP-8426. The device itself was a mechanical enigma, birthed from the womb of the SCP Foundation. Yet an ontological shift had severed the umbilical cord of understanding, severing the nexus between SCP-8426 and any related documentation. The primary goal now was akin to an elaborate game of existential hide-and-seek, uncovering the function of this elusive device. The veil of uncertainty shrouded the completion date of SCP-8426, whispers of its construction reaching a climax in the fall of 2018. A more confounding enigma was the number of times the device had been activated since its completion, an unfathomable and unpredictable number echoing through the ontological ether. The device's history was a complex narrative of ontological stuttering. The first tremors of anomaly were felt on the probably accurate date of the 22nd of April 2019, yet amongst the flurry and clamor of numerous active projects within Site-33M and the pressures from external Foundation sites, the impact on SCP-8426 was not recognized as an issue until a later, unpredictable date. On that fateful and nebulous date, an urgent missive arrived in the inbox of Site Director Yarrow, a desperate plea hidden beneath a veneer of formalities. The author of the email painted a stark picture. SCP-8426 had undergone a significant reality shift. The ontological meaning of the device had morphed, yet this fact was overlooked, uninvestigated. This pressing revelation sparked a reaction in the unpredictable realm of possibilities. Either Director Yarrow found himself reaching out to Technician Thorson, or it was Thorson who broke the silence, reaching out to Yarrow. As the labyrinthine narrative of SCP-8426 continued its unwieldy course, the actors within this enigmatic stage play were left to grapple with the ontological echoes of a reality in constant flux. In the chilling echo of a phone connection, two voices resonated belonging to two individuals, a man known as Thorson, an astute investigator notable for his use of mnestics, and a man named Yarrow, a well-respected director. The tension vibrated through the line as Thorson began to utter words that could very well spell the end of their perception of reality. "Director," Thorson's slightly raspy voice sounded across the line, a hint of concern etched into his tone. "On the 22nd, a series of systems catastrophically failed. After an extensive examination of the logs, I've stumbled upon some rather troubling signs of ontological disturbances." A shiver of uncertainty prickled Yarrow's skin. "And that would entail—" He trailed off, seeking a translation of this seemingly apocalyptic scenario. The answer was as chilling as the Arctic winds. "A disastrous divergence in reality, sir." Thorson's voice was cold, the gravity of his words hitting Yarrow like a sledgehammer. Such deviance from the mundane was unusual enough to plant a seed of dread in Yarrow's mind. "How significant?" he queried, the taste of anxiety bitter on his tongue. "You're the sole person who's taken note of this anomaly, so—" But Thorson was quick to interject, his voice a mixture of determination and fear. "I am unique in my consumption of monestics here at Site-33M. I assure you something has fundamentally altered." Immersed in a heavy silence, Yarrow mused over the information. "What exactly is the altered element?" he finally asked, the unknown factor creating a knot in his stomach. That answer, however, only deepened the mystery. "SCP-8426, sir." Thorson's tone held a hint of suspense, an audible gulp reverberating through the line. With a throaty sigh, Yarrow attempted to elicit more information. "Refresh my memory on that project, Thorson." His reply came in a mere whisper, a chilling revelation that sent icy tendrils crawling down Yarrow's spine. "Sir, I was under the impression you held that knowledge." Unsettled, Yarrow quizzed further. "Was it constructed under our jurisdiction?" he asked, each question creating a deeper rift in his understanding of the situation. His reply was a series of stammers. I can't verify that, sir." The befuddlement echoing in Thorson's speech only exacerbated Yarrow's unease. "You don't know?" Thorson's reply was loaded with frustration and confusion. "Sir, that's exactly what I've been repeatedly attempting to convey. No one possesses knowledge of what SCP-8426 truly is." Taking a moment to process the gravity of the situation, Yarrow swallowed hard, his voice shaky as he confirmed, "A machine, potentially of our creation, exists within our sight, and nobody possesses any knowledge of it?" "Correct, sir," Thorson solemnly agreed. The revelations left Yarrow reeling, the words like a cold wind sweeping over him. "How is such ignorance possible?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Again, Thorson's answer provided no comfort. "I can't definitively answer that yet, sir, but I've started formulating a hypothesis." Yarrow, desperate for any kind of understanding, asked, "And that would be?" "I believe we've somehow forgotten the very essence of what we created," Thorson admitted, his voice heavy with the weight of his statement. Disbelieving, Yarrow scoffed, "That's preposterous." With a smirk detectable in his tone, Thorson retorted, "I believe you had a similar reaction when you first appointed me, sir." An uncomfortable silence stretched out between them before Thorson broke it, his voice laced with worry. "Sir?" The tension was palpable as Yarrow considered the gravity of their predicament. What actions must be undertaken to unravel this mystery? Thorson's response was as grim as the situation. "A comprehensive audit. We must uncover the purpose, origin, and operational nature of SCP-8426, and only after accomplishing that can we begin to fathom why it transformed." Chilled to the bone, Yarrow's voice was barely a whisper. "And how do you plan on doing that?" "Very meticulously, sir," was Thorson's unsettlingly calm reply. In the aftermath of this disturbing dialogue, the pursuit of SCP-8426's elusive nature began in earnest. Technician Thorson, ever the methodical pragmatist, initiated an extensive process of reconstructive ontological investigation. The objective: To unearth the purpose and origin of SCP-8426, an ominous cipher of a machine, Thorson meticulously examined each component on a micro-ontological level, attempting to understand the fundamental nature and usage of every piece. Next, he drew on ontological overlap to estimate the machine's ostensible purpose, a Herculean task in itself. Finally, armed with an array of hypothetical conclusions, Thorson sought to estimate the device's true purpose and origin. This was a process akin to solving a puzzle with the pieces constantly shifting, each potential answer as nebulous as the machine itself. To further this investigation, a group of 30 employees was called upon. Under Thorson's watchful eye, they were asked to interpret SCP-8426's purpose based on a myriad of factors: its appearance, smell, taste, visual cues, intuitive feelings, tactile interactions, assigned object number, even artists' renderings and personal instincts. This exercise, as nuanced as it was unpredictable, became yet another layer in the intricate investigation of the enigmatic SCP-8426. Into the heart of the industrial complex known as Site-33M, a question echoed through the raucous din of machinery and the quiet hum of technological masterpieces. The employees, a motley mix of mechanics, welders, and technicians, were asked a question, a selection from a list of potential applications. The task was to discern the primary function of a curious object, the enigma known as SCP-8426. However, the question was skewed by the site's primary function. Site-33M was a crucible of creation, a place of manufacturing, not of containment. The response was perhaps predictably influenced by this environment. The initial analysis of SCP-8426 stood as a testament to the enigma's inherent mystery. The employees, trained eyes more accustomed to the intricate mechanisms of machines, perceived SCP-8426 through a lens of familiarity. To them, it bore the guise of a manufacturing device, a conclusion as foregone as it was beguiling. But the report echoed the bitter truth. This surface-level perception was inconclusive at best. It was, in fact, more a reflection of the observers themselves than the object's esoteric ontology. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, certain conclusions could be drawn. The report remained adamant on one point: SCP-8426 was not a weapon. But how could such an assertion be made with conviction? The answer lay in the delicate science of ontological comparison. Each potential category was pitted against the entity, determining the degree of shared conceptual traits, the degree of ontological overlap. And the weapon category was a resounding null, an echo devoid of resonance. As improbable as it may seem, the device bore no semblance to a weapon. In the quest for certainty, the investigation delved further into the matter in SCP-8426 Extended Documentation Analysis. The effects of a peculiar phenomenon, an ontological shift, had retroactively altered all documentation associated with SCP-8426. This posed yet another labyrinth for the researchers to sift through, searching for conceptual constants within a sea of ever-changing meaning. The painstaking process yielded significant insights. Among the unearthed documents was a budget authorization summary, a paper trail leading to the project's scale. A staggering $2.6 billion for materials, $400 million for labor, and a recurring operational expense of $1.1 billion per year. The grand total stood at a monumental $4.1 billion. The document painted a picture of a significant project, one that was not only breathtakingly expensive to construct, but also astoundingly costly to operate. The scale of the project was unpredictably staggering, hinting towards it being a high-profile venture, or perhaps a secret mission shrouded in the depths of the organization. The trail of correspondence provided further context. An incomplete message to Director Yarrow emerged, hinting at a firm stance taken by the Ethics Committee despite any arguments. The intriguing nature of SCP-8426 and the associated bureaucratic machinations only further painted the enigma in shades of intrigue and mystery. The truth remained elusive, hidden beneath layers of uncertainty and enigma, a challenge to those daring to unravel its secrets. An air of controversy hung like a weighty fog in the room as this correspondence from the Overseer Council hit the table. The Council, echoing the sentiments echoed by several directors and even by individuals like you, staunchly objected to the regular operation of SCP-8426. Despite the passionate protestations, the Council held that the grounds provided were far from sufficient to justify the regular use of this enigmatic entity. As the narrative unfolds, the document detailing an investigation into SCP-8426 brings forth no new revelations. The veil of secrecy remains impenetrable, for the lack of specifics and the inability to unearth any preceding or following correspondence only serves to amplify the mystery. One intriguing claim tucked away within this communication was that SCP-8426 carried with it a cost in human life, an allegation that seemed improbable. Yet, it was also asserted with some certainty that SCP-8426 was not a weapon. A fog of uncertainty began to descend, fostering assumptions that SCP-8426 was either dangerous to operate or its operation birthed some dangerous byproduct. The narrative took an unexpected turn as a maintenance report crept into the limelight. SCP-8426, it seemed, had been unresponsive when an attempt was made to operate it. The researchers, currently engrossed in exploring SCP-8426 improbable artistic applications, had signed off on a maintenance request, expedited by Site Director Yarrow himself. A whirlwind of activity ensued as the faulty entity failed to power on, an oversight attributed to the researchers' unfamiliarity with such intricate machines. The internal power allocation controller threw up an alarming discovery. The thaumic energy relays were shot. A swift replacement was in order, bypassing the rigmarole of budget approvals as the higher-ups demanded an immediate resolution. Funds were hastily summoned to facilitate the repairs, but the actual cost proved elusive, fluctuating between an insignificant sum and an astronomical amount in the billions. The riddle of SCP-8426 deepened when Technician Brody, the alleged engineer, was brought in for questioning. Brody, staring blankly at the diagram purportedly crafted by his own hand, expressed both confusion and disbelief. His memory housed no recollections of this repair, leaving the diagram an unintelligible mass of lines and angles. A look into his employment records further muddied the waters. Brody had always been identified as a janitorial technician at Site-33M's janitorial and maintenance departments. His adamant assertion that he had never touched SCP-8426 added another layer of enigma to this convoluted tale. The mystery thus deepens. The truth about SCP-8426 remains shrouded in shadows, the intrigue punctuated by protestations, controversies, and impenetrable uncertainties. As the story unfolds, one question lingers. What secrets does SCP-8426 hold in its enigmatic grasp? In the vellum pages of the SCP's labyrinthine archives, records brought to light a rather perplexing contradiction. They suggested that Technician Brody had seen his first day of employment in February of 2019. This was, By all accounts and objective analysis of the timeline, an improbability that necessitated relentless internal ontological audits. The Foundation was a fortress of secrecy and knowledge, but even within its fortified walls, things could go awry. Anomalies could seep into the most mundane of details. How else could one explain the puzzling discrepancy in Brody's employment records? The erratic inconsistencies within the labyrinth of documentation surrounding SCP-8426, however, pounded the final nail in the coffin of confidence. The data on record was so muddled by contradictions and uncertainties that it rendered further dissection of documents associated with SCP-8426 an exercise in futility. Yet the hungry pursuit of truth never ceased. Addendum 2, a chapter dedicated to the technical and semantic specifications of SCP-8426, presented another avenue for exploration. As the subjective analysis of correlated documents had drawn up a dry well, the Foundation pivoted towards a more objective stance. Two distinct frameworks were employed for this purpose: a physical assessment and an ontological evaluation. The physical analysis aimed to unfold the veiled purpose of SCP-8426 by interrogating its composition, identifying significant components, and discerning its distinguishing traits. In the sterile, humming lab, tools of science dissected the entity with relentless precision. Material analysis was conducted. Carbon dating was attempted, but the results proved to be an anticlimax. It seemed nothing of significance could be learned that was not already evident through a simple visual inspection. SCP-8426, under the cold scrutiny of the lab's glaring lights, stood revealed as a composite of varied elements. 12% of its mass was an anomalous alloy, 30% was of non-anomalous metals, a percentage cloaked in uncertainty. Organic matter constituted a meager 2%, while the rest was a surreal mix of ectoplasm, or a comparable substance, and an advanced polycarbonate compound. This composition shared eerie similarities with other significant devices the Foundation had crafted, leading to the plausible conclusion: SCP-8426 was an offspring of the Foundation's clandestine efforts. The technical specifications of the enigmatic SCP-8426 had been deduced through rigorous testing, meticulous data recording, and educated conjecture. The resultant dimensions painted a cube structure measuring roughly 5 feet across each edge and weighing in at approximately 3,900 pounds. Its maximum charge was estimated to be around 57 megajoules, with the operating temperature range of SCP-8426 chamber fluctuating wildly between 270 K to a staggering 4.128 x 1030 K. As for its activation length, the data played out like a turbulent symphony, numbers and measures bouncing from 10.2 seconds to an arbitrary, indefinite amount of time, their disparities only magnifying the enigma of SCP-8426. Regrettably, the fruits of these detailed analyses yielded no new insights, only a miasma of contradictions and a fog of vagueness that hung heavily over the entire investigation. In light of this, the data was deemed largely irrelevant, a frustrating dead end in the labyrinthine quest to understand SCP-8426. But even in the face of such elusive subject matter, the Foundation's relentless pursuit of the truth knew no boundaries, and the saga of SCP-8426 was far from over. In the midst of a darkened laboratory, researchers toiled relentlessly, trying to pierce the enigma that was encapsulated within SCP-8426. The entity remained an elusive, intricate tapestry of advanced machinery and arcane arrangements, a puzzle that science strained to comprehend. As the researchers gazed upon its exquisite complexity, a sense of deep trepidation festered within them. They were cautiously inching forward in their unwinding of the mystery, launching an analysis of the technological components that forged the skeleton of SCP-8426. Their preliminary studies had been met with an unsettling lack of clarity. A frustratingly incomplete picture of SCP-8426 was emerging, a silhouette of understanding in a universe of unknowing. Under their microscopes and diagnostic tools, they could identify a kaleidoscope of key components, yet an accurate count of these pieces eluded them. Each new discovery unfolded a fresh layer of ambiguity, industrial capacitors that seemed probable, the potential existence of compensated pulsed alternators, whispers of computer interfaces. The evidence pointed towards the existence of magnetic field generators and material insertion chambers, while doubts lingered around the seeming implausibility of atomic energy sink or linear motors. The study, however, uncovered two enigmatic aspects that seemed to play vital roles in the functioning of SCP-8426, an indeterminate heat source and an equally perplexing propulsion system. While their presence was questionable at best, the subtle machinations and observed behaviors of the enigma suggested their existence. The myriad of diverse components hinted at a machine consuming and generating vast amounts of energy and potentially requiring additional material for operation. As the researchers drowned in the mechanical ambiguity, they decided to embark on a different approach to decipher the nature of SCP-8426. They elected to use semantic and ontological analysis, striving to unravel the core ideas and principles associated with the entity. The walls of their thoughts were riddled with uncertainties and complex probabilities, layers of conjectures, each more intriguing than the last. With the knowledge that their understanding could be tainted by perception, they dove headfirst into the ontological ocean, seeking to comprehend SCP-8426 from its very roots. The ontological nature of SCP-8426 made it a mirage, blurring and shifting before their very eyes. The redefinition event had complicated matters further, inhibiting their understanding of SCP-8426's true nature. Though one concept resonated clear as a bell in their minds, SCP-8426 was no weapon. To decipher what SCP-8426 truly was, they initiated a deep semantic dissection, drawing upon noospheric mapping and direct ontological comparison. This allowed them to identify concepts based on their ontological overlap with SCP-8426. The concept of innovation was one such aspect that emerged. However, its overlap percentages shifted unpredictably, fluctuating between 17% and 80%. As the familiar symphony of machines murmured in the background, the researchers delved deeper into the enigma of SCP-8426, their minds spinning a web of theory, deduction, and revelation. They were standing on the precipice of understanding, peering into the foggy abyss of the unknown, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive truth lurking within. The enigmatic conundrum of SCP-8426, a perplexing entity, set the stage for an elaborately unwinding narrative, bringing forth a sense of uncertainty and trepidation. Arrayed before the Foundation's researchers were various possible hypotheses, like scattered puzzle pieces on a darkened table. Each percentage was a potential clue, cryptic and beguiling, each waiting to be sifted, weighed, and analyzed in the pursuit of an elusive truth. Initial percentages suggested a complex kaleidoscope of assertions. The cryptic numerals 2%, 0.1%, 44%, 30%, 0%, -20%, 7%, 25% whispered inaudible secrets, each presenting a different facet of SCP-8426. The probability of it being a weapon was dismissed outright, a 0% chance. This brought about a palpable sigh of relief, sweeping across the room like a cooling breeze amid the searing tension. The possibility of it being a machine was more plausible, standing at a significant 98.5% certainty. This introduced a tantalizing new lead, a thread of a possibility that might unravel the mystery of SCP-8426. Simultaneously, the hypothesis of SCP-8426 being an appliance emerged with a 76% improbability, further muddying the waters. Its likeness to a ferret was deduced as improbable too, at 43%, while the concept of it being human was dismissed immediately, once again hitting 0%. The idea of SCP-8426 being a detonator was also largely improbable, standing at a meager 5%. Through the labyrinthine network of data, one conclusion was drawn with a degree of certainty. SCP-8426 was not a weapon, nor was it human. Yet, the possibility of it being a device or an appliance remained a tantalizing maybe, rendering the future course of investigations uncertain and intriguing. The next step in the investigation was to map out the character of SCP-8426, defining its essence through a catalog of descriptors. Words like advanced, precise, anomalous, dangerous, warm, hot, hollow, and valuable, worthless were tossed into the semantic cauldron. From this lexical brew, only the most frequently appearing definitions were considered pivotal to the understanding of SCP-8426. The word dangerous, although linked to SCP-8426, seemed to be an inconsistency, a false lead in the complex web of clues. This particular adjective starkly contradicted the established knowledge that SCP-8426 wasn't a weapon, thereby rendering its association negligible. Instead, a new hypothesis emerged, a seemingly plausible explanation. The device was likely an advanced mechanical contraption, possibly birthed by the Foundation itself. It was engineered for a specific purpose, although this very purpose remained shrouded in mystery. As the researchers delved deeper into their analysis, using the physical components as their guide, they hoped to extrapolate further on the function of SCP-8426. As they moved into the third addendum of their research, the ultimate goal was to unmask the functionality and purpose of SCP-8426. Armed with their preceding observations and assumptions, they plunged into the heart of the enigma. The pursuit of understanding what SCP-8426 was built to do loomed before them as imposing and tantalizing as ever. This elusive goal was now a step closer, blurred yet within their reach. The darkened corners of this mystery were beginning to be touched by the light of comprehension, albeit tentatively and uncertainly. In the boundless realm of the unknown, defined by the records of the SCP Foundation, lies SCP-8426. Its cryptic functions and the theoretical activation process have been meticulously reconstructed by the team of researchers dedicated to decoding its secrets. The speculated order of operations of SCP-8426 commences with the loading of materials. The object's hollow interior, coupled with the presence of what appears to be material loading chambers, points heavily towards this initial step. As the researchers trace their fingers along the cold, metal surface of the entity, they grapple with determining the exact nature of these materials. It's clear that the entity is not a weapon. No nascent ammunition waits to be loaded. Furthermore, Component analysis intimates no creation of an additional end product. Therefore, it's probable that the materials loaded are the primary target of SCP-8426 functionality. The eerie silence of the lab echoes with uncertainty, only punctuated by the soft hum of equipment and the low whispers of scientists. The next step in SCP-8426 activation, energy generation, is shrouded in just as much mystery. The entity's structure boasts multiple capacitors, compensated pulsed alternators, and other connectors, suggesting an energy intake process. This is likely undertaken to fill its capacitors, fueling SCP-8426 activation. The maximum draw of electrical energy is a staggering 57 megajoules, a clear indication of the entity's potential to store and utilize vast amounts of energy per activation. However, shrouded within the cold metallic exterior of SCP-8426, the exact duration of this energy generation process remains uncertain. The whir of machinery and the overhead fluorescent lights reflect off the polished surface of SCP-8426, amplifying the suspense hanging in the room. Once its energy reservoirs have been replenished, the application phase is initiated. SCP-8426 operating chamber is capable of sustaining a significant range of temperatures. Via component analysis, the inference is made that this collected energy is directly applied to the material. The heat generated within the entity intensifies, its glow visibly wavering, hinting at the conversion of energy into thermal form. The analysis continues, the room thick with concentration. The traits of SCP-8426 seem to revolve around heat or thermal energy. This suggests that SCP-8426 applies thermal energy to the loaded material over an unspecified duration of time. The final step of SCP-8426 operation reaches a crescendo with the ejection process. After the material has been subjected to the thermal energy, the remaining functionalities point towards the application of force. The probable conclusion is a directional force, propelling the material outwards. Each stage of SCP-8426 operation process unfolds like a cryptic riddle, its intricacies revealing themselves in the piercing glow of the laboratory, yet leaving a trail of unanswered questions in their wake. In the shadowy halls of the SCP Foundation, where secrets are the only currency that matters, a startling revelation takes shape. The absence of a distinct output chamber leads the researchers to a daring presumption. Post-thermal application, material is seemingly shot out from within the enigma that is SCP-8426. This marked the conclusion of an activation cycle, a full revolution of its inscrutable mechanism. Operating in the realm of conjecture, they stitched together a theory. Like a surgeon weaving sutures on an open patient, they bind together the fragments of certainty and weave a narrative of SCP-8426 functioning. It rings true like a bell tolling in a desolate cathedral, echoing through the silence, yet it is still only a theory. Bearing this in mind, they plunge deeper into the labyrinthine depths of SCP-8426 nature. The details, specific and intricate, aid them in crafting a conceptual definition of the SCP. In the dark sea of uncertainties, they find an unexpected buoy. SCP-8426 is not a weapon, a cruel tool of violence and destruction. A surprising revelation, it steers them towards a new direction, non-violent applications. They were seeking not a harbinger of doom, but rather something useful, a machine, an appliance. In the cold, sterile light of the labs, they test SCP-8426 at full power, introducing an innocuous loaf of bread to its inscrutable mechanism. As the cycle completes, a baffling conclusion unfurls before their astonished eyes. SCP-8426, with all its complexity and high cost, is a toaster, a $4.1 billion toaster created by the SCP Foundation, harnessing anomalous technology. The absurdity of the conclusion strikes them, but they are shackled by the constraints of the SCP's functionality and potential applications. Were it not for its non-violent nature, an array of more sinister purposes lurks in the shadows, but they must adhere to the truth, however improbable. SCP-8426 is a toaster, a prohibitively expensive one, but a toaster nonetheless. Given this disheartening revelation, a decree is handed down. SCP-8426 shall reside in Containment Chamber 07. Its activation strictly forbidden due to the exorbitant cost of operation and the minimal benefit it brings. After all, the damage wrought during the single test activation echoes ominously in their minds. Further tests have been indefinitely suspended. Yet, in the labyrinth of truth and deception, the truth cannot be denied. Despite their initial dismissal by researchers and administrative staff, replication studies serve to fortify the initial theory. The echoes grow louder, reverberating through the Foundation's walls. SCP-8426 is indeed a very expensive toaster. To further cement this seemingly ludicrous truth, the Foundation deploys an AIC web crawler into the digital wilderness of the Internet. Its mission: to comb through the chaotic mass of video traffic, identify recordings that bear substantial ontological resemblance to SCP-8426, and strengthen their theory that behind the SCP's veil of mystery and complexity hid an innocuous, if absurdly expensive, toaster. As the meticulous investigation continued, researchers diligently compared their findings in an attempt to glean further insight into the mysterious events leading to SCP-8426 conceptual abstraction. The effort was akin to piecing together a complex puzzle, the very fabric of reality proving to be the game board upon which they played. Their work was exhaustive and ongoing, with every new match or connection of significance meticulously documented and recorded. Only the most promising leads, those with a match rating of 80% or higher, would undergo formal review. The investigation into SCP-8426 had reached a resolution, yet the thirst for knowledge and understanding remained unquenched. Among the information gathered, an intriguing piece of data stood out: a Foundation-fashioned railgun, untraceable and ontologically portable, was listed for sale. It was an instrument of deadly potential, capable of altering or even ending existence as we know it. The bidding was set to commence at a staggering $1.2 billion USD, a price commensurate with its ominous power. The gravity of the situation was not lost on the researchers, further driving their resolve to understand the true nature of SCP-8426. In the midst of their investigation, the researchers utilized a variety of resources such as photographs, blueprints, and diagrams, each originating from diverse sources. A particular image that offered invaluable insight was titled, quote, testfire.jpg, quote, a striking portrayal of the first full-power test of an electromagnetic railgun prototype, captured by John F. Williams of the U.S. Navy. Another useful resource was a blueprint of a special type service station in possession of MacDill Air Force Base, Civil Engineering, Tampa, Florida. An architectural relic of 1941, it provided a glimpse into the past as well as a tangible connection to the present mystery. Additionally, a drawn diagram named Limit Switch Concept Demonstrator by Gestapco proved beneficial in their research. It offered a visual explanation of intricate mechanisms, facilitating a deeper understanding of the structural framework at play. Lastly, an image referred to as, quote, pointeredit.png, quote, comma, designed by Microsoft designers, was manipulated by the researchers in their quest to decode the mystery. Each image held hidden connections and associations which, when pieced together, would lead them closer to the true nature of SCP-8426. In this tale of cerebral challenges and enigmatic entities, the researchers remained steadfast, their pursuit of knowledge unyielding. Each clue found and connection made fueled their determination to understand the complex and abstract nature of SCP-8426. A tale of such intrigue and suspense is akin to a meticulously woven tapestry, where each thread holds importance, its significance revealed only upon careful inspection. Part 12. In the unnerving silence that followed, all eyes within the room were fixated on SCP-3039. Within the dim-lit confines of the room, the object lay inert. Its surreal form cast an eerie shadow that danced in the flicker of the overhead lights. A sense of unreality hung heavy in the room, like a lingering fog that obscures the truth. The scientist, Dr. Harper, had a keen look of anticipation on his face, a testament to the years of research and work dedicated to understanding the mysteries of SCP-3039. But it was intertwined with an underlying dread, a cautionary tale born from the multitude of stories whispering of the horrors trapped within the confines of the SCP. Harper broke the silence. His voice bounced around the chamber, echoing faintly yet clearly. "Let's begin," he announced with a firm resolve, a solemn declaration of their plunge into the unknown. As he reached for the intercom, a chorus of anxious breaths filled the room. His gloved hand, white as bone and steady as a surgeon's, hovered over the button. A pregnant pause filled the chamber, a calm before the storm as Harper wrestled with his own doubts and fears. Pressing down, he allowed his voice to reverberate through the intercom, addressing SCP-3039 in a tone reserved for the volatile and unpredictable. "SCP-3039, he began, "we are about to initiate the experiment. I need your cooperation." An unsettling silence followed, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting in apprehension for SCP-3039's response. The suspense was palpable, a chilling reminder of the SCP's unpredictable nature. Then, a sound. It was a low hum, resonating from within SCP-3039. It was neither human nor mechanical, an indeterminate noise that sent shivers down the spines of everyone within the room. The hum increased in intensity, building up into a crescendo that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Dr. Harper felt a cold sweat gather at the nape of his neck, a testament to the thrill of the unknown. His eyes held a paradoxical mix of dread and fascination, unable to look away from the SCP even as every instinct screamed for him to take cover. But he stood his ground, his gaze unwavering, a beacon in the storm of uncertainty. He was a scientist, and he was here to learn, to understand, to unravel the mystery that was SCP-3039, even if it meant staring into the abyss. There was a glint in his eyes, a hardened resolve, a lust for knowledge that transcended the boundaries of fear. "You are a part of science now," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the eerie hum emanating from SCP-3039. A statement of fact, a plea, a reassurance, or a prayer. It was impossible to tell. And as the hum continued to rise, as the room seemed to vibrate with the intensity of it, Dr. Harper stood tall, consumed by a single thought. He was ready to face whatever SCP-3039 was about to unleash. He had to be.